So what you are being asked to do is you are going to be asked to graph this. And then in your project, you are asked to identify vertical asymptotes, horizontal asymptotes, the x-intercept, and the y-intercept. You have got to be able to identify those things. Now, the vertical asymptotes are always defined by the denominator. Vertical asymptotes are defined by the denominator. So we need to factor our denominator. Okay? So I've got x squared minus x minus 20. That does factor. It factors to x minus 5 and x plus 4. Okay, x minus 5 and x plus 4. Okay, so then when I set each one of those equal to 0, I get x equals 5 and x equals negative 4. Okay, vertical asymptotes are a line. So you have got to write them as a line. So you need to write it as x equals 5 and x equals negative 4. Okay, those are your vertical asymptotes. Vertical asymptotes are defined by the denominator. Our horizontal asymptotes are defined by the relationship between the numerator and the denominator. And I'm going to say that again. Your horizontal asymptote is defined by the relationship between the numerator and the denominator. Okay? What is the degree of my numerator right here? What's the degree? What is my x raised to? 1. Okay? What is the degree of my denominator? 2. When the degree of my numerator is less than the degree of my denominator, what is my horizontal asymptote? I'm pretty sure I just heard it. It's not 1. It's 0. Okay? In this situation, our horizontal asymptote is 0. My horizontal asymptote is 0 when the numerator is less than the denominator. Now, my horizontal asymptote would be the relationship between the coefficients if I had something like x squared over, okay? Do you see how my degrees are the same? In this situation, when my degrees are the same, then my horizontal asymptote is the relationship between my leading coefficient in the numerator and my leading coefficient in my denominator. That's when it's the relationship. In this situation, the degree of my numerator is less than the degree of my denominator. That's why my horizontal asymptote is y equals 0. This is when your horizontal asymptote is the relationship of the coefficients. Okay? So I just want to make sure you know when you have a horizontal asymptote of 0 and when you have a horizontal asymptote.
So is it always going to be 1 or y?
No. The reason that this one right here is 1 is because I've got a 1 right here and I've got a 1 right here. Okay? If I'd had a 3 here and a 1 in the denominator, my horizontal asymptote would be y equals 3. Okay? It's the relationship between those two coefficients. Okay? Now, how do I determine my x-intercept on a rational function? How do I determine my x-intercept on a rational function? Do I look at my numerator or my denominator or neither? My x-intercept. Numerator. Okay? So, to determine my x-intercept, I set my numerator equal to 0. So I have x minus 3 equals 0. So my x-intercept in this situation right here is going to be 3. Now, I would encourage you to write that as an ordered pair because you're going to have to identify that as an ordered pair on your graph. Okay? Write it as an ordered pair. Write it as an ordered pair. Okay? So, to find your x-intercept, you plug your numerator, you set your numerator equal to 0. To find your x-intercept, you set your numerator equal to 0. Okay, now, to find my y-intercept, I can either cover up all my x's, okay? So I kind of take a piece of paper, and cover up all my x's. What am I left with? -3 and -20. Don't lose those negatives. Okay, so what's my y-intercept? Okay, it's -3 over -20. So it's positive 3/20. Okay, now when you cover up all your x's, what you're doing is you're plugging 0 in for x. That's what you're doing. Okay, so I've got 0 minus 3 over 0 squared minus 0 minus 20. So then I'm left with 3/20. Okay? So the way that I find my y-intercept is I plug 0 in for x. Okay? So my y-intercept is 0 3/20. Okay? Now, what I do at this point is I plug it into Desmos so that I can sketch my graph. Now, you need to practice putting things into Desmos. You've got to be sure that you put these parentheses around it. If you don't put parentheses around your numerator and your denominator, then you're telling the computer to do something different. So go ahead and get into the habit of putting that around your numerator and around your denominator. Okay? Now, this right here, these are my x equals. Those are my vertical asymptotes because I want to see that on the graph. Okay? And here is my horizontal asymptote. Okay? Okay, then our graph looks like this. Our graph looks like this right here. Now, this point right here, that is my y-intercept. Okay? This point right here, that is my x-intercept. So be sure you are paying attention to that when you do your graph. Here, my green line is one of my vertical asymptotes. My blue line is a vertical asymptote, and you can't really see it, but there's a purple line right there that goes through the origin, and that's my horizontal asymptote. Okay? Now, again, after today, you will have everything that you need in order to do the project. Your project is a test grade. Your lowest test grade gets dropped. Okay? So remember that. Any questions about this? Okay.